Okay, so this is going to be our first Unit 1 Day 5 video for geometry. In it, we're just going to talk about vertical angles real quick. So we're going to kind of follow the directions that we've got here, except we're not going to do on our boards. If I draw a line, right, so here's a line, we're just going to call this L, being cut by a transversal, and we're going to call this transversal T, right? This is what my picture would look like, okay? So you could kind of argue either one is the line, either one is the transversal. They're really just two lines that intersect and cut through one another, more or less, right? Okay, they don't have to cut through, but for all intents and purposes, this is what we mean by a line being cut by a transversal, right? So on to the next one. We're being asked how many vertices did we create? Well, we created just this one right here, right? Remember, a vertex is a fancy way of saying a corner. So we created one vertex. Now let's talk about, well, how many angles have we drawn? Well, we've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4 angles, right? If we measure the angles, right, and obviously I don't have a protractor digitally to do that. If I still had the Smart Notebook software, I would, but I digress. I don't have that. So we're just going to pretend. So angle 2, we're going to go ahead and assume that angle 2 is, we'll call it 65 degrees. Okay, if we measure angle 3, we'll see that it is also 65 degrees, right? And that's because on a drawing like this, anytime you have a line being cut by a transversal like we do here, you're going to always have opposite angles congruent. Well, the other thing that should be obvious is these two angles, angles 1 and 2, are going to be supplementary, right? So without even measuring with a protractor, I should already know angle 1 right here is going to be equal to the supplement of 65. So I can do 180 minus 65, and of course that would give me 115 degrees. Opposite angles are congruent, so is angle 4. Okay, so did that. Okay, so now what do we notice about the angles? Well, everything that we just said. Adjacent angles are congruent. We also see that, or not congruent, they're supplementary. What am I, stupid? Adjacent angles are supplementary, right? And we see that opposite angles are congruent. Okay, and we see that all four have a sum of 360, right? Because 180 plus 180 is going to give me 360 no matter how I look at it. All four sum 360 degrees. How many pairs of supplementary angles? Well, we see that we've got 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, and 4 pairs. So 4 pairs of supplementary angles. Now, what are vertical angles? Everything that we just described answers EQ1. Vertical angles are formed by a line being cut by a transversal. And therefore, you're creating one vertex, right, that has 4 angles. So all 4 of these angles share the one vertex right here. Okay, and well, that means that adjacent angles, right, angles 3 and 4, or angles 1 and 3, and so on, they're going to be supplementary. Opposite angles will be congruent, right? So 1 is opposite of 4, they're congruent. 2 is opposite of 3, they're congruent. We're going to have 4 pairs of supplementary angles, so you get the idea. Okay, so that does it for this video. If you have any questions over EQ1 in day 5 of Unit 1, obviously shoot me an email or feel free to come and see me. Goodbye.